right, folks, it's another moment for interesting conversation on this series, Homo Politicus. I am Cyril Abaku, and on the show today, Tinubu summons Interior Minister Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo after he was linked to the 585 million naira scandal for which his colleague, or counterpart if you like, in the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, Betta Edu, was suspended. All right then, straight into the conversation, shall we? Now, the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on Tuesday summoned Interior Minister Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo after his name became involved in the 585 million naira scandal involving suspended Humanitarian Affairs Minister Betta Edu. In the story, as it was told, Planet Projects Limited, a company co-founded by Tunji-Ojo and his wife, received a payment of as much as 438 million naira as, wait for it, consultancy fees. But the minister says the last time he sat on the board of the company was in 2019 when he resigned his position, having won elections into the Federal House of Representatives. But to think that the very same minister who has been widely acclaimed as being a star on the president's cabinet would find himself at the center of arguably the first major financial scandal of this administration is one question that throws up only so much for the imagination. Oh well, in this part of the world, corruption could become such a protracted stage performance that, were you to wait to see its end, that end may never come. I have a gentleman and lady in the studio to help me broach the subject. My first guest, on my left, is Dr. Olabisi Deji Folutile. She is a public affairs commentator. Madam, I hope I got your name correct, and
you did. You did very well.
You're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
And of course, my far left, I have Mr. Akin Fatunke, chartered accountant, public policy analyst. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks to my fellow discussants.
I am not very certain if since the beginning of the Fourth Republic we've had this sort of, shall I say, maelstrom or sudden thunderstorm of corruption cases, just flying left, right, and center. It's either the president is doing something for which, even if the law doesn't forbid him from doing it, you wonder if there was a basis for him to do that. 1,000 plus delegates to COP28. Mm-hmm. The minister is paying for 400 million plus for consultancy fees. The list just goes on. Beginning the year on this note, how does it even make you feel, Dr. Folutile? Let me begin with you.
Yeah, well, let's first of all say that all thanks to the social media, mm-hmm. Nigerians are getting to know who their leaders are in real terms. Before we hear of these things, you can just imagine, I'm a journalist and I've been practicing as a journalist, but the truth is that were it not be for the social media, we may not have known the extent of this corruption, because you don't know. For the traditional media, if you know something, you need to prove.
Yeah.
They may even ask you to get the receipt of the consultancy fee.
Yeah.
All of those things will prevent you from actually coming to the public with the story. But with the social media, nobody even cares whether there is receipt or not. So let's thank God that at least we have the social media that can expose the kind of frauds. That is even what happened to the COP issue. Yes. It was in the social media that we started seeing. It blew open in the social media and all of that. So we thank God for that. We have to bring God into our affairs in Nigeria, But on a second thought, you look at it that you are in a country that is so poverty-stricken. Mm-hmm. People are complaining. Mm-hmm. No food to eat, mm-hmm. and all of that. And you just hear these figures. They just come to you, they pop at your face, and you wonder, is it in this same country that somebody, what kind of consultancy are you giving?
This was where I was even going to bring up my follow-up question. Before I come to Mr. Fatunke, 438 million naira consultancy fees.
What are you consulting?
Because the ministry, there's a trajectory, to this. It fall from heaven. That same ministry was paying millions of naira to people to fly to where they would distribute thousands of naira to people.
Exactly.
Including to a state that didn't have an airport and they were booking flight to go to that place.
Exactly. And I also think that, you see, the fraud we are even seeing now, I'm thinking it's nothing compared to what probably happened during the previous regime, because there was closeness, nothing, we didn't even know anything. After all, that former minister, we are being told now that something around 44 billion or whatever, she has to answer for it. So it shows you the extent of rot in our system, and the fact that it's not that Nigeria is poor, just that some individuals organize themselves to take what belongs to the public and amass to themselves. How would you have known, for crying out loud, if we have not seen the documents the minister signed for some of his aides or our aides that were flying to Kogi, where there is no airport?
So did they even go to Kogi?
Yeah, they must.
They went.
You also mentioned the point
on Eagles Wings.
Yeah, you mentioned the point that you use millions of naira to distribute thousands of naira, and that is a tragedy. Really, it's a tragedy, and that is why we keep saying that social investment programs should not be done physically. In countries where they do social investment programs, they introduce technology that avoid any human or physical interaction. That is the way it is done.
So let me not bring the conversation to Mr. Fatunke. I don't know if you've seen this matter the way I've been looking at it, that Dr. Folutile did refer to the fact that the previous government was sort of close-knit in a way. Some could say because it was largely clannish. So it was me, you, us, we, sort of thing was largely in it. Again, we saw cases where we thought the president should have acted as president and he was nowhere to be found. You hear the president has sacked the head of an agency, the minister says he has not been sacked. The minister says the president has sacked, then the president says the president has not sacked. We had all these kind of things. Coming back to the question on the table, Tunji-Ojo being linked to the matter involving Betta Edu. How do you even look at how this president views corruption or malfeasance? Because in Betta Edu's case, if a minister as much as erased the memo saying that monies belonging to government should be paid into private account, that in itself for me is a red flag. And then when this humongous amount of money was paid as consultancy fees, the president has only summoned the minister. We've not heard what the outcome of the summons was. Then before then, the president didn't sack Betta Edu. I think when public pressure became so high, we only saw they suspended her pending, an investigation. Is the president really in the mood to deal with bad behavior?
First of all, a couple of sound bites. I will not sit here and tell you that I'm surprised. It's always been with us. And I can go back into history since 1960. Our first Prime Minister said that even if he sat in central bank, the way and manner the central bank people will be stealing money. I'm talking about 1960, early 60s. And my friend Dr. Lasisi actually Olubunmi painted it well. It's like you just put me and madam and you're asking us questions. And the matter of equivocation, SLA Akitola listened carefully to the people that were pointing, accusing fingers at some other people. And I said, look, they flash a torchlight into your anus. Which of amongst you will not tell that we're not going to see physics? So for me, generally, corruption has collapsed. Nigeria's the canker of our nationhood has been destroyed. People who come on board came on the back of corruption, swimming in corruption. And I know that we are looking at a rather sensitive one with Mr. Ojo. For me, it is not so much Bola Tinubu or Buhari or Jonathan before then, or Yaradua or Obasanjo himself, going back to 1999. It is that there is absolutely nobody, including Transparency International, that we do not have it published. And we have always been talking about this. What Madam is saying that social media has done, I will be a bit careful. Social media could be double-edged sword, yes. On one hand, it shows you instanta revelation. At the same time, that instanta can also be destroyed. What I see is lack of capacity
on the
part of those who are willing us, starting with Mr. President himself. I do not think Mr. President asked Betta Edu to attempt to do what she did. I think she lacked training and she was full of greed, and she fell into the trap of people who don't, quote unquote, like her. And I can tell you in my days in ExxonMobil, there was a young lady back in the day that came to Nigeria. You can imagine people who were older than her and all that naturally would not like the idea. So what do you do?
Of her being the boss, you mean?
Of her being the, it's just a bit natural, even man to man. And then what then do you do?
Yeah, but if I, sorry.
What then do you do? You get in there, the first thing you do is you land with one leg. Second, you study
the environment.
Thirdly, you know the nuances about the jobs and civil service rules. I think what has happened basically, and let me just conclude on that, is the fact that the music just went sour. Some people felt let out, and some people deliberately saw her greed and her, just for allowed her to lead on, knowing fully well that they are going to be the one that will bring out all the physics that we have in there. For Ojo, unfortunate, but he's as liable like hell. Because he's liable like hell, I'll get that in my subsequent position. His attempts to draw the wool over our eyes, maybe some other people, somebody not somebody like me, ethics, and every rule in the game, both the Nigerian Constitution, the governance code, the financial regulations, all went sour, and it's unfortunate. The most honorable thing to do right now, for me, will not be for Mr. President to ask him to go on suspension or whatever it is. It's for him to honorably step down. As I say this, my heart is bleeding. But you must understand the fact that talent is not enough. There are also many soft skills that you must have.
Yes.
And like I always say, you want to play an orchestra, the black key and the white key. You can play the black key and continue to fly. You can play the white key, but if you really want to have some harmony, two must come together. And if those two don't come together right now, I see a situation where maybe one word what to hear from me, and I better just say it here, is that the buck stops on Mr. President's table. And that buck not only stops on Mr. President's table, the horse that is going ahead in front is the ones that are coming behind. You always continue to look at.
Yes.
But
so there are many people who, for good reason, had faith in Mr. President. Some cite his time in legal. I will come back to Dr. Folutile with Tunji-Ojo. What people had expected of him, especially on the strength of the fact that on social media, netizens had said he was Minister of the Year. On social media, he was being hailed. In fact, was it 2 or 3 days ago, there was the launch of the online portal for applying for passport, all of which were,
which are facts.
he came with a lot of energy, with a lot of vision, and so on. So I'll come to that. But let me follow up with you on Betta Edu as a person. Let's put on the table. Betta has been special advisor to the governor of Cross River State on health. She has a master's degree, if I'm not mistaken, in public health from somewhere in the UK, I think. So then from there, she went on to become Commissioner of Health in Cross River. She had gone on to be COVID-19 task force chairperson in Cross River State. All of these are windows of exposure into public service and how, memos, approvals, etc. She could not be said to be a newcomer or first-timer to bureaucracy and procedure. Now, having also been APC national women leader, which is by no means a mean feat. When you appointed a minister, there's usually a retreat to know where powers begin and where they stop and what you can do and what you can't do. In the publicly advertised ongoing story, the fact is that the age of the federation actually said, Madam, this money couldn't, he replied saying that, look, it is against extant rules. So I'm wondering what continues to give her the confidence that she could exercise prerogative to the effect of saying, isn't this a matter more of impunity than it is of discretion?
You see, from where I come from, my neck of wood, there's a saying that when they say something is not straight or whatever it is, amuku, will be a war, and it will point your attention that look, it's not at the top, that thing is tilted, it's down. It takes me back to what Madam said and where you started from. Okay? Social media has exposed it. Do you know the amount of rot that has gone that we never knew that we will never be able to fathom? It's good, therefore, please, I want you to help me add for Betta Edu. She's a proud alumna of Federal Government Girls College, Calabar, and a unity school. And I can tell you from unity schools, because I attended a unity school, Federal Government College, so I'm proud of that. Ethics and common sense goes with a lot of the things you do.
Grooming.
And when you continue to grow, you suddenly, let's start from the federal. You came into the federal situation and you became women leader when people who are supposed to be older than you, who have been with the party, were sidelined, and for one reason or the other, you just came in and you think those people are going to be very happy with you. Or a lot of the things that you did when you were in Akwa Ibom states that people threw a blind eye, or the settlement was very, very regular and nobody was left out. But on this particular one, it's just going to be me and perhaps somebody that I know, and then I bring in all my energy into being. You spoke about the retreats. What retreats? What did they go to do there? Look, I worked in ExxonMobil, and I'm always very proud of the fact that our standard of business conduct will be such that Madam will be brought on the table. I will come, you will come with your own. We lock ourselves in a room. Her own culture and upbringing and understanding will naturally be different from mine. We'll have, people who are white, we'll have people who are, just name them. And then we look at the extant rules.
Yeah.
Are there things that we can bend? Yes, there are certain things you can bend. If you declare, you must declare.
Yes.
Did Tunji-Ojo declare when his company was going to go on to win this contract? Everything pointed to the fact that this is a paddy, clear cut like that.
He ceased to be a director of the company in 2019. So his wife continued with the company, and they never had below talk about the fact that she had won a glorious contract She didn't tell him in the house.
You see?
Neither did he put in a word for her with Mrs. Edu.
You see, that revelation by their minister in a sane country
Was enough.
He should have just resigned on his own. He should have just resigned on his own. And it's just unfortunate because I also agree that that man has been performing well. At least the way he approached...
By Nigerian standards.
Yes, by Nigerian standards. That's why I said well. Yes. And even Betta Edu herself is full of energy. You will see this lady everywhere, going everywhere. It's just the two of them have been prominent in this administration, if we want to be quite frank. Couple. Yeah. Anyway, but for Tunji-Ojo to come and tell Nigerians that he resigned as a director, I don't even think this person understands the way Nigerians view these people in position of power, politicians especially now. And what he said, you will also know that he planned it. Yes, he planned it. And he thought it was going to be a defense any day, anytime. Because he kept saying that once he was appointed as a lawmaker, he understood public rules. He knew that he could not be a director in any company. So he went ahead to apply and to remove himself from the directorship. So to him, not being a director is enough to excuse him or his company from winning government contracts. And I can tell you that most of the contracts that are being issued in Nigeria today are given to political
friends of friends.
Friends. That is what is happening.
Friends of friends.
So it has gone so worse to the point that it does not even now recognize how bad the situation is. Because what he said shouldn't have come out of his mouth at all.
My own is not as bad as the other one.
You know something? I want us to be very practical when it comes to things like this. Back in ExxonMobil, yes, this is the rule.
Okay.
And they will ask you for practicality. And part of that practicality is that not everything, just like the Bible, not everything is going to be spelled out.
Okay.
It is assumed you will have something that you call sense of shame. Okay. It's also assumed that there are certain things you don't know, you will never see in the four walls of the university. You can only get it, even as we are discussing.
Yes.
You just take what I'm telling you. In management, we talk about ethics. As much as I don't want to go to start to mention names, but I can only tell you my own experience. If you went to a place like the Lagos Business School, I was there in 2010. My experience was ExxonMobil. I had ladies like you who were working in MTN, they were working elsewhere. We got into this kind of argument to say, wait, put me in my paper and all that kind of stuff, forgetting, like Shakespeare said, when it comes to the issue of equity, like Caesar's wife, you must not only be seen. Madam, it is only when you know that you can give. Obviously, my quote unquote star boy Ojo, smart techie, does not know. Okay, now, you'll be surprised I'm saying this. You'll be surprised so many Nigerians in all fields, including the media, they don't know that certain things should really not happen. You are far removed from the remote. Let's even say he sold the company. The element of the fact that you still have friends who bought and the fact that you can influence contracting tells you you must be simply partisan, non-partisan in your decision. Why is it that Aminu Kano never had a decent house before he died, yet he had all? Why is it somebody like Ali Monguno, who was minister in different areas, never had a house? Because they understood this sense of ethics. You must not be seen. But what do we have in
Yes.
What do we have in here?
Yes, which now has
constitutional provision
yes.
that your wife should not be drawing budget.
Yeah. And it's not.
Again, Cyril, we've spoken about this a couple of times. That Mr. President will come to the open and be saying that he's surprised that his son is attending. Look, I am telling you what has happened is the fact that, unfortunately, and Cyril, may I just say this, because of my knowledge of Mr. President being a
sure.
He knows very well that none of these ministers, whether Betta Edu, whether Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, he also knows, you'll be shocked at a lot of the things that he knows right now, that when you when you pull the whole thing down, like Samson and Delilah, the whole thing is not only going to crash badly. Is he sitting pretty? Is the chief samurai also sitting pretty? If he's not sitting pretty, he wants to be a bit careful. And in trying to be a bit careful, the gulf of the trust deficit that we are talking about will continue to widen. What pains me in the whole of this? You are saying that Betta Edu was this, was that. You want to tell me Betta Edu was a neophyte during the time of Patricia Ete? She didn't know what happened to Patricia Ete, also a woman. You want to tell me she was not reading newspapers even if she was that Mrs. Grange, she didn't know how to be so
this brings me to yet another question, sir.
Deliberate greed. And people will be looking at you. Look, even you, Cyril, I don't know, but it's not the way. Oh, come on, they will allow you to continue to sing. By the time you begin to sing, they will be the one that will pull out.
Shouldn't we then be bothered? Because if, for the sake of trying to look at this matter from all possible angles and from an objective lens, and for once just ignoring the facts as they are, and trying to dig deeper, even if it is at the risk of playing the devil's advocate, is it a possibility? Because I mean, you look at Tunji-Ojo is relatively young, Betta Edu is less than 40.
She's 36,
this is arguably the younger generation on the cabinet. I mean, that is, if you want to add, not for the sake of this matter, but if you also want to add the Minister of Digital Economy,
yes.
they are young. In fact,
even the Minister of did you say digital?
Yes. Musawa, Hannah to Musawa.
Okay.
So these are the younger people on the cabinet. So somehow, while we're expecting that the younger generation would go in there and make a change, it appears, I'm just thinking out loud now, it appears that somehow Nigeria has rubbed off on its future in such a way that what before now would have been a grievous anomaly has now come to pass for something somebody can come and actually to make a case for, and to say, I think I have a point here. I think I haven't excused myself here. You've said this thing, and I think I want to agree, sort of, that people sometimes have to plan a crime. Just plan it and think that even if it's in 20 years' time, I have credible defense. Okay? But we know that, I mean, even if you left the company as member of the board, you could nominate somebody who's on the board. You didn't relinquish your shares. And anywhere you are, you will be a marketer for that company. It's a normal thing. But I'm looking at this matter that if the younger generation of Nigerian politicians are doing this, are we not even in greater danger, madam?
Now, let me tell you something. This issue of young or old is not about age. It's about the values that character. It's about character, the things you hold on to. When I was discussing this with my son yesterday, he told me his experience while in secondary school, that as a prefect, they got snacks for their house, and they gave it to one of the prefects to handle, and 3 of them ate everything that belonged to everybody.
Great.
Yeah. How old was my son? He was 14 years old. And when he was talking about this thing yesterday, you needed to see the way he was still sounding. He said he couldn't believe it. He could not understand it. That 3 of you ate something belonging to a whole dormitory.
And if I argue that they saw it somewhere.
And he now told them that even if you don't think about yourself or others, did you ever think that as a prefect, these other students will see other students eating this snack, and they will not be wondering, where is our own? They don't even just think that these children will feel so bad that what others had, they didn't have, because you decided to eat. But even at that time, some people were telling him that, leave it. It's not that deep. And he now said, does it mean that those children now, they were criticizing people in government? That what rights do they have? Because is that not what is happening at the larger?
But those 3 prefects, madam, if you don't mind me buttoning, we are going to become councillor,
exactly,
local government chairman.
That is the thing I'm coming to. That it's not about being young, it's about your character.
So if you just allow me button again, I was not making a case for youth in government. What I was, the young will grow, the old will
What I am even saying is that this youth that got into government, how did they get there? That is the question that we should ask ourselves. This same youth you are talking about, how did they get there? You just mentioned them better. You told us everything that she had been in Cross River. And he also explained the people that must have been sidelined for her to get to that position. A lot of things, do we take care of, did we reckon with experience? Did we even reckon with morality? Did we reckon with character? What, the people that put them there, what were they looking at? Meanwhile, I wanted to respond to one of the things you said, Sam, that maybe there are some written rules and some things may not be written.
Yes.
We all know that when we do competitions, when there are competitions, for example, maybe MTN is organizing a competition, they will say in-house people cannot participate, their families cannot participate, and all of that. It is always there. If you want to run a competition here, you will put that,
the caveat.
Yes, you will put it there. So are we now saying that these people are so
they are so lost,
that they cannot,
and that the only thing that needs to be settled is what you call political IOU. You helped me to government, so your son or your daughter or your girlfriend or your boyfriend will now be the one that it's not as if it's peculiar to Nigeria. The only difference is that elsewhere, sense of shame. And we had that before. In Royal Empire, a king decides to do something untoward, his head will go into the calabash. But because we have eroded our culture, our values, and our sense of shame, and those who are ruling us at all levels, not just the present, are people you can call our last 11, first 11, and all that. Though, like our football,
yes.
Our football is something that if talent is there, well, you get something and all that. What does that do to us? We lose competence and we lose capacity. We continue to go down.
So if I use on in 60 seconds, what should the president do? Each officer. Let me begin with you.
Okay, starting with me.
Yes,
me because I'm older than Thank you very much. I think the president should. I like the aspect that we should go through a process, but we are not. We are in a hurry. Let a probe be thoroughly done, and I think we started this, as you said, that Mr. President summoned
The minister.
I don't know whether he summoned it, because I was reading somewhere else that it was not summoned. Whether he summoned it or not summoned, I think a phone call, in my own honest opinion, Tunji, it's unfortunate. Things that happen, please step aside, because I'm going to ask you to step aside, take your decision. Tunji-Ojo should say that I'm being asked to step aside, like back Niger.
Just take it.
I just take a walk.
Yes.
Go and learn, unlearn and relearn. Go to the masters, people who will be able to teach you beyond book knowledge.
Yes.
To teach you the soft skills of how to behave in public, how you speak to your wife, how you speak to your children in the closet of your rooms. Certain things must never happen, and if it dare happen, you punish them more than you punish the others. Then we begin to set good examples.
Yes, but definitely, what should the president do?
Well, I think the president should just move beyond taking these two people as scapegoats, and then dig deep down into the corruption nest in the system. You know, gladly, even some bank CEOs have been invited by EFCC, and it shouldn't just be a media parade, a media trial that just to satisfy people. Let them go deep into what is going on. There may be other revelations.
There will be so many. I think, Mr. President, maybe that is the final that I'm going to say here. Mr. President should simply just do something. We've gotten it wrong, including me, and I'm talking about Mr. President himself. And like Paul on his way to Damascus, I've now seen light. Not this cosmetic cutting of
Yes, exactly.
I am going to look at this budget that we are presented, which people are talking about, which he knows. Call the members of the National Assembly, call the National Council of States, governors, and start from himself. I'm only going to take 10% of my salary as a starting point. Every other thing I give back, because we need to build the country. It's also part of the corruption that we are talking about. That will be what I will do if I were the president.
That's like it's on this note that I'd like to thank Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo for making our time to be with us this afternoon. Madam, it's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Thanks for
I
having me.
must also extend our gratitude to Mr. N438, chartered accountant and public policy analyst, for always obliging us whenever we need to pick your brains on these issues.
Thank you very much. Sitting down next to Madam, I don't know, there's a comment that is good.
Yeah.
You shouldn't say because women are now doing all this.
You even know that the number of women in this thing compare with women.
Sorry, thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, it should all be good, shouldn't it be? Why a nation throws up a hula balloon filling the front pages of our national dailies over its ability or inability to decide what is right from what is wrong? For us here, it's a question of, will the president do the needful? Would he even, for example, undertake a broad-based probe of the entire cabinet to see who might have gotten what illegally, how, and when? Until we come your way again on Homo Politicus.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.